Leo walked into the airplane with a small backpack pressed tight to his chest. He was 11, quiet and careful, the kind of kid who listened more than he spoke. His mother had tied a note to the zipper that said Gate B12, Seat 18A, and called Dad after landing. Leo read it again and again, not because he could not remember, but because reading it made him feel safe. The cabin smelled like clean fabric and warm air, and the engine sound outside felt like a giant breathing. He took one slow step at a time, watching people's knees, bags, and shoes as he moved down the aisle. Most passengers were already settled, talking softly or staring at screens. A man laughed too loudly near the middle seats, and someone else asked for water like they owned the sky. Leo kept his eyes forward, counting seat numbers the way his mother taught him, steady and quiet. He did not want attention, he did not want trouble, he only wanted to sit and look out the window. The window mattered to him because the clouds felt like a new world, bright and far from noisy streets. When he reached row 18, his heart lifted a little, because the letter A meant he was close to the glass. Leo slid into 18A and placed his backpack between his feet, both hands still holding the straps. He sat straight like his mother showed him, shoulders back, chin level, calm and polite. Outside, small airport trucks moved like toys, and workers in bright vests walked in neat lines. Leo watched a suitcase ride up a belt, disappear, and return again, as if the plane was swallowing stories. He imagined his father waiting at the other end, tall and serious, but smiling the moment he saw him. Leo had not seen his father in months, and the thought of that hug felt like warm light in his chest. A flight attendant named Mark walked by, scanning the cabin with tired eyes. Mark had been on duty since early morning, and every delay had piled onto his mood like heavy bags. He noticed Leo sitting alone and stopped, not with kindness, but with a sharp pause. Mark asked who he was traveling with, and his voice was louder than it needed to be. Leo answered softly that he was flying to meet his father, and he lifted his boarding pass carefully. Mark glanced at it like it was a nuisance, then told Leo to stay quiet and follow instructions. Leo nodded quickly, the way kids do when they want an adult to stop looking at them. He kept his hands still, fingers locked together, trying to show he was not a problem. Around him, a few passengers turned their heads, then turned away, pretending they saw nothing. A woman across the aisle looked at Leo with concern, then looked down at her lap like she was unsure. Leo felt heat creep into his face, not anger, not shame exactly, just that heavy feeling of being judged. He stared out the window again, pretending the sky was the only thing that existed. The plane doors closed, the safety talk began, and the cabin lights softened. Leo listened to the instructions even though he already knew most of them, because listening made him feel in control. He touched the note on his backpack zipper, then placed it back, careful and slow. In his mind, he repeated his father's name, Mr. Harris, as if saying it could protect him. Leo did not know that his father owned the airline, he only knew his father worked hard and traveled often. And as the plane rolled toward the runway, Leo made a quiet promise to himself to be brave, even if no one was kind. The plane lifted into the sky and the ground slowly faded into clouds. Leo felt the soft push of the seat against his back and held the armrest tightly. His ears felt strange, but he stayed quiet just like his mother taught him. Around him people relaxed and voices filled the cabin like low waves. Some laughed, some complained, some slept without care. Leo only watched the light change outside the window. A little later Mark walked down the aisle again, checking belts and trays. His steps were quick and his face showed impatience. When he reached Leo, he noticed the small food box on the tray. Crumbs from a biscuit rested near the edge. Mark stopped and sighed loudly, drawing eyes from nearby seats. He told Leo rules must be followed and things must stay clean. Leo moved fast, using his sleeve to wipe the tray. His hands shook, but he worked carefully. He said sorry in a small voice that barely reached the aisle. Mark did not soften his tone and told him to pay attention. The words felt heavy even though they were simple. Leo nodded again, hoping the moment would end. People nearby shifted in their seats. A man near the aisle frowned but said nothing. A woman 2 rows back watched closely with concern. The cabin felt tighter, as if the air itself was listening. Leo felt his heart beat fast against his ribs. He wished he could disappear into the seat. Mark leaned closer, speaking again about behavior and discipline. His voice was firm and cold without warmth. Leo looked down at his hands, not wanting to meet his eyes. The feeling inside him was not anger but confusion. He did not understand why he was treated like this. He only knew he felt alone even with so many people around. The plane continued smoothly through the sky. The engines hummed steadily like a distant storm. Leo tried to focus on the sound, counting each breath. He remembered his father telling him to stay calm in hard moments. That memory helped him sit still and quiet. He kept his promise to be brave even as fear pressed in. Time passed slowly and the tension did not fully leave. Mark moved on but the feeling stayed behind. Leo looked back out the window, searching for comfort in the clouds. They looked peaceful and far away. He imagined stepping onto them like soft ground. That thought helped him breathe again. A passenger finally leaned over and whispered that he was doing fine. Leo looked up, surprised by the kindness. He gave a small smile that did not fully reach his eyes. That single moment of care mattered more than the speaker knew. It reminded Leo that not everyone was unkind. It reminded him he was seen. As the plane continued its journey, Leo held on to hope. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know that this moment would travel far beyond the cabin. He only knew he wanted to reach his father safely. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet strength was forming. A strength that would soon be tested again. The plane finally touched the ground, and the cabin filled with movement. Seat belts clicked open, and people stood too fast, reaching for bags. Leo waited until the aisle cleared, just like he was taught. His legs felt stiff as he stood and lifted his backpack. He walked slowly past rows of strangers who no longer noticed him. The moment felt heavy, like something unfinished stayed behind. Leo kept his eyes forward, thinking only about seeing his father. At the gate, his father, Mr. Harris, waited near a pillar. He looked calm from the outside, but his eyes searched every face. The moment he saw Leo, his posture changed and his steps quickened. Leo ran forward and wrapped his arms around him tightly. Mr. Harris felt the small shake in his son's shoulders. He pulled back gently and looked at Leo with concern. He asked softly if everything was all right. Leo tried to answer, but his words came slowly. He spoke about the flight, the voice, the way he felt small. He did not exaggerate and he did not accuse. He only told what happened in his own quiet way. Mr. Harris listened without interrupting, without anger. He noticed the way Leo avoided eye contact when speaking. That silence told him more than words ever could. They left the airport together, walking through bright halls. Mr. Harris carried the backpack even though Leo offered. In the car, Leo finally relaxed, leaning back against the seat. The city lights passed by like moving stars. Mr. Harris kept his voice calm and steady. He told Leo he did the right thing by staying respectful. He promised him that his feelings mattered. That night after Leo slept, Mr. Harris sat alone. He opened his laptop and reviewed reports from the flight. He watched security footage with careful eyes. He read notes from crew members and passengers. Each detail formed a clear picture in his mind. He did not rush and he did not assume. He believed that truth deserved patience. The next morning, messages were sent to senior staff. Meetings were scheduled without explanation. Mark arrived expecting a routine discussion. Instead, he found screens and quiet faces waiting. Footage played without sound but spoke clearly. Statements were read slowly, one by one. The room felt heavy with understanding. Mark tried to explain his stress and long hours. He spoke about pressure and difficult days. No one denied those struggles. But responsibility was not removed by fatigue. Mr. Harris spoke calmly about care and trust. He said every passenger carried a story and a heart. and power without care created harm. The airline took steps that same day. Mark was removed from active duty pending review. Training programs were expanded with focus on respect. Clear rules were shared across all teams. Children traveling alone received added protection. Reports were encouraged without fear. The message was clear and firm. Leo returned to school unaware of most of it. He only knew his father hugged him longer than usual. Days passed, and the memory softened slowly. He laughed again with friends and focused on lessons. Yet something inside him had changed. He felt stronger knowing his voice mattered. That knowledge stayed with him quietly. The story did not end at one meeting or one flight. It moved through offices and conversations. It reminded people that kindness was a choice, and that silence could still be heard. Leo never asked for justice or attention. He only wanted safety and dignity. And sometimes that was enough to change everything. Weeks passed and the story quietly spread through the airline halls. Not as gossip, but as a lesson shared in calm voices. New training rooms filled with staff sitting in honest silence. Screens showed simple examples of care and patience. Leaders spoke about trust as something earned every moment. People listened because they knew this was real. Change did not shout, it moved slowly and stayed. Leo returned to the airport one morning holding his father's hand. This time the building felt different, brighter and kinder. Staff smiled at him not because they knew his name, but because they were taught to see every child. A flight attendant knelt to his level and asked if he felt ready. Leo nodded, feeling his shoulders relax. He felt safe in a place that once felt heavy. They walked toward the gate and Leo looked around with new eyes. He noticed signs about respect and listening. He noticed how staff spoke softly to travelers. The world did not seem perfect, but it felt better. His father watched from beside him, saying little. He believed actions mattered more than speeches. This moment showed the work had meaning. On the flight, Leo sat by the window again. The clouds looked the same, but he felt different inside. He breathed easily and rested his hands on the tray. A new attendant checked his seat with a gentle smile. No sharp voice, no cold look, no fear. Only calm and care filled the space. Leo looked outside and smiled quietly. Back at headquarters, the airline continued to grow. Not only in size but in understanding. Reports were reviewed with fairness and patience. Staff learned that authority was paired with duty. Stories like Leo's became part of training. Not to shame but to teach. That balance changed the culture slowly. Mark was not forgotten, but he was not excused. He attended sessions and listened to others' stories. He learned how small actions carried heavy weight. The process was long and required honesty. Growth did not come easily, but it came. The airline believed people could learn when they were guided with fairness. Leo grew older carrying the memory gently. Not as a wound, but as a reminder. He learned that speaking truth mattered. Even when the voice was quiet. He learned that adults could listen, and that kindness could be taught. Those lessons stayed with him always. The flight that once held fear now held meaning. It showed how one moment could shape many paths. It reminded everyone that dignity was not optional, and that care defined true leadership. Leo did not own the airline, but his story changed it. And sometimes that was the greatest journey of all.